Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Psych Talk. Today I will talk about why we fear change. Think about it. How often have you avoided trying something new, even when deep down you knew it could improve your life? Why is it so hard to leave our comfort zones, even when they're no longer serving us? And so today we'll uncover the psychological roots of resistance to change, explore how fear of the unknown impacts our decisions and growth, and share strategies to help you embrace change as an opportunity rather than a threat. So let's get started. So, change is a universal constant, but our brains are wired to resist it. Why? Well, it all comes down to survival. So, for our ancestors, familiarity often meant safety. So, sticking to known paths, routines, and environments helped them obviously avoid danger. But today, we don't face the same threats, but our brains haven't caught up to that. And so, when faced with change, the amygdala, which is the part that is responsible for detecting threats, can perceive it as a risk, triggering a stress response. And this is why even small changes like switching jobs or moving to a new city can feel extremely overwhelming. And psychologists also point to the concept of loss aversion. So we are wired to fear losing what we already have more than we're motivated by the possibility of gaining something new. So this can make us cling to the familiar even when it's not ideal. And on top of this, change forces us into the unknown, and uncertainty is deeply uncomfortable for most people. And so our brains crave predictability because it provides a sense of control. And when we can't predict outcomes, we feel anxious or even paralyzed. And so let's talk about how this fear of change and uncertainty plays out in real life. So in decision making, when faced with a decision that involves change, we tend to overestimate the risks and underestimate our ability to cope. And so this can lead to analysis paralysis, so where we overthink so much that we avoid making any decision at all. And in personal growth often obviously requires stepping out of our comfort zone, but fear can hold us back. And so, for example, someone might stay in a toxic relationship or unfulfilling job simply because it feels safer than venturing into the unknown. And this is known as the status quo bias, which is our tendency to stick with what we know. What about in relationships? Well, fear of change can also affect how we relate to others. And for instance, someone might resist therapy or self-reflection because it could reveal truths that challenge their current identity or relationships. And so, how do we overcome this resistance? Well, it starts with reframing how we think about change. And so let's explore some strategies to shift your mindset and navigate change more effectively. So understand your fear. Take a moment to identify what specifically scares you about the change. Is it fear of failure? Fear of losing control? And once you name the fear, it becomes more manageable. 2, focus on the positives. Instead of fixating on what you might lose, think about what you could gain. Ask yourself, what's the best case scenario if this change works out? 3, start small. Big changes can feel overwhelming, so break them down into smaller, manageable steps. For example, if you're considering a career change, start by updating your resume or taking a relevant class. 4, embrace uncertainty. Remind yourself that uncertainty isn't inherently bad. It's a space for possibility. And approach it with a curiosity mindset. And, some of life's greatest moments happen when you take a leap of faith. 5, build resilience. So practice self-care and build a strong support system. So the more resilient you feel, the easier it is to face change. And reframe failure. So failure is often just a stepping stone to success. Instead of fearing failure, view it as a feedback. Ask yourself, What can I learn from this experience? What can I do better next time? 7, visualization. So imagine yourself thriving after the change. What does your life look like? How do you feel? Visualization can help reduce fear and increase motivation. 8, seek support. Whether it's a friend, family member, or therapist, having someone to talk to can make a huge difference. And they can offer also other perspectives and help you process your fears. So, before we wrap up, I want to share a quick exercise you can try whenever you're facing a big change. Write down your fears. List everything you're worried about, no matter how small. Then, challenge those fears. So, for each fear, ask yourself, is this true? What evidence do I have? Often, our fears are based on assumptions rather than facts. 3, create an action plan. So write down one small step you can take to move forward. For example, if you're afraid of moving to a new city, your first step might be researching neighborhoods or connecting with someone who already lives there. And this process helps you move from a place of fear to one of action and empowerment. Well, obviously change is hard, but it's also where growth happens. And remember, every time you step out of your comfort zone, you're creating space for something new and better to enter your life. So approach change with a curiosity instead of fear. And thank you for joining me today. I hope this episode gave you some insight into why we fear change and how you can start embracing it as an opportunity. Thank you for listening.